Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Sammons, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind successful startups, the challenges facing them along the way, and the strategies driving their future expansion. Today, we're excited to have Alyssa Nolte at TruVue, the founder and CEO. Alyssa will be sharing more about her founding story and giving us a glimpse into her plans for future growth. So let's jump right in. Alyssa, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. It's a pleasure having you here. We're just looking forward to hearing more about your journey and your story so far. So let's start at the beginning. What specific problem was inspired you to start TruVue, and what problems were you looking to solve with that?
So to really answer that question, I have to go back much further than the start of my company. I
Mm.
was about ready to graduate college about 10 years ago, and I knew that I didn't necessarily want to go work for a big company, but I didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur or to be my own boss or to kind of follow that path. I really never intended to start a business. And I joined a pre-revenue startup because I was interested in what they were doing. I turned down like normal jobs where you get an actual wage and benefits and vacation days to join this team and quickly discovered that although I was making like absolutely no money, I was having the time of my life understanding how businesses get built. How do you build relationships with customers when you have absolutely no, pre-existing networks? I was fresh out of college. I'd never had a real job. And so I discovered that I had a knack for understanding how people make buying decisions and how people make purchasing decisions. So we started doing research for these huge companies to help them figure out how customers go from I'm interested in this product, I'm open to learning more about this product, to all the way to the end of I'm ready to have a sales conversation and how can we move them along that path faster and what kinds of things can we do to drive that journey. And so, as we did that research for the last 10 years, I discovered that for most companies, they just can't afford it. It's a very expensive process. It takes many, many hours, very specialized skill sets. And from my perspective, if you're not Fortune 100, but you want to grow and grow quickly, then you need Fortune 100 level insight. And so TruVue is my attempt to take everything I've learned about how customers make decisions and put it into a software. So if you don't have F100 budget, you can still have F100 insights.
Awesome. I mean, as you're saying, and what you mentioned, that is probably one of the hardest things in working in sales is that little journey between the, do you like the product? Now, how can we get you to invest in this product? So the fact that you've got a little niche there and you're going for it is incredible. How long has the company been up and running? How long has TruVue been a
So
thing?
we've really only been up and running for a couple of months. We officially started in July 2024, and we're doing that, VC, pitching for funding, going through the process of really just refining and understanding who our customers are. I had a great relationship in the consulting world with incredible brands, but now we're looking to explore how does that relationship change when it's a software, not a high ticket consulting service.
Oh my God, yeah, most definitely so. And have you found little hiccups in those like first few early months that you've had to overcome, or any challenges that kind of made you go, "Oh my God, what am I doing?"
So I like I said, I started at a pre-revenue startup. And so I thought I had learned everything there was to know about starting a business and failing over and over and over again and having to pivot and change direction. With this one, it's like, okay, I haven't learned all the lessons that I need to learn. So yeah, it's been hard, like every founder will tell you. The hardest part is in this day and age, how do you grab attention and cut through the noise? Because I feel like I'm just, with some of my marketing, just shouting into the void and hoping someone, hears my call. I don't want to cold call. I don't want to do these things because I just don't think that they're core to our values and we're not having success on them. And so for us, it's really about we have this incredible product. It's driven by 15,000 research responses, 10 years of research and understanding. How do we connect with people in a way that's authentic to our brand and dedicates and showcases value?
Awesome. And how have you done that? Kind of what have you learned in the terms of doing that? You mentioned you didn't want to do the cold calling, you don't want to do that mundane process. What kind of tips and tricks have you learned in doing that so far?
We're exploring the idea of personality-based experiences, right? So, as the CEO of the company and as the product visionary, I guess, for lack of a better word, a lot of the product is built around me, my ideas, and the things that I've learned. And so we're really trying to lean into that as, you can hire me for custom consulting, or you can pay a much lower dollar to have access to basically my brain inside of an AI. And that is something that we've really had to lean into. And as a introvert with incredible imposter syndrome, it's really hard to stand up there and be like, "Hey, everyone, pay attention to me. I've got something really cool." It's just so antithesis to my nature. And so that's been something that we've been experimenting with is how much of this can be personal relationships. It's not what you know, it's who you know, versus how much of this has to be traditional mass marketing. So we're seeing actually quite a bit of success when I stop pretending to be someone who knows everything about marketing and acquisition, and I just start reaching out to people in an authentic, open way.
Yeah, I love that when you can have a conversation and knowing what you know. And I mean, you can hear it in your voice at the moment, the passion that is coming through. So you're getting people on the phone and you're doing all that yourself. In terms of like the sales process and the marketing, are you covering that? Do you have a team working with you at the moment? What does that look like behind the scenes?
We are a bootstrapping startup, so I have incredible people who are quote unquote on the team. They're not on the payroll yet, but they are in my corner. And so for the most part, I'm solopreneuring this while we get that initial beta launched and we get off the ground. But as we go forward, yeah, we're gonna 100% try to come up with a more structured and organized approach. As soon as the one-to-one founders connection story approach starts to get either A, too overwhelming, or two, we're just not turning anything out of it.
Okay, cool. So it's in terms of scaling with the business and then growing it as you see fit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and we did touch on a little bit about your background and your introverted personality and stuff. So bringing all that in together, would you say there is any significant bottlenecks apart from yourself being the key divider in there that would you'd have you moving forward in a pace that's kind of rapid, I suppose would be the right word to use?
I think it's all about prioritization, right? I'm not, just because I'm a single person startup doesn't mean that I don't also have the same issues that a lot of large companies have. How many of us have issues with being asked to do more with less or to, reduce our headcount but increase our output? And we have to add all these new tools or drop all these new tools. And I think it's going to be a universal problem, especially as we go forward into continue in the age of software and into the age of AI. It's not going to get easier. So any leader, regardless of their status in their business, of how many people they have or what their priorities are, it's going to be about not getting distracted and focusing on the things that make the difference for you. So our bottlenecks right now are honestly just distraction of other priorities and things coming in, and having the understanding to decide what is a good thing and what is the right thing, because those are two different things.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose in terms of like priority of a position would be the first two words that spring to mind when you said that. Um, And then I suppose, where do you see yourself moving? You mentioned obviously the growth of AI and the implement of technology into the world. How do you see yourself positioned in that? And where do you see yourself going in 12 months' time?
So our goal is to not build an end-to-end solution, right? A lot of the people that we see out there building software, they're trying to build something that does everything for people. We are trying to do the exact opposite. We are trying to do something that adds value to the software you already have. So rather than competing with a Salesforce, we want to exist inside of that Salesforce experience. So you have one less login to worry about. You just open up your Salesforce and there is your TruVue helping you understand what your customers are doing, thinking, feeling, and saying about your brand during that sales process. And so as we go forward, we're looking at how do we stop trying to provide end all value and start focusing on how do we connect the value you already have, the data sources you already have, and the tools you already have into your process rather than trying to make you do something new or add a new tool to your plate.
Okay, awesome. And then, so talk me through the process a little bit that you have in the structure at the moment. Is this set to take over the whole sales process of a company, implement it as a CRM system, sorry? What does that sales process look like for you?
So our role in understanding that sales process has always been as an accelerator, right? So we don't do like the designs of your sales flow. We're the research team that tests it and talks to your customers and sees if it's actually working the way you think it is. So that's how we envision the software working. We are not going to replace your CRM. Our goal is to make your CRM actually work better for you. We're not going to replace your Google Analytics. We're going to bring in that data into one unified space so that you can actually understand what's about to happen and what comes next. So rather than think of us as a replacement for anything, think of us as an augmented intelligence that makes your actual existing tools work smarter.
Love that. So it's about enhancement of what we already have. And
Right.
I suppose that's the biggest fear I think people have in their brains at the moment about AI and AI technology specifically, is that it's not a replacement and we need to use it as an enhancement software.
I'm a big believer in augmented intelligence and the idea that AI's purpose is to make me smarter, better, faster, stronger, and not to replace me. Let me do the things that only I can do. Let the AI do the things that it can do that I don't want to do anyway.
Love that. I just love that. It's an aid for our talk. It's almost like we know what we are, we know what we're good at. Let's just help. AI can help us get a little bit better at what we're doing and help us, as you say, put ourselves in that position and ready to be there in the forefront.
Absolutely. I have a podcast that I host called Taking Back Monday. And it's this idea that work doesn't have to be a terrible thing that we do, that we can enjoy the work that we're doing. And AI is a big part of that because let's automate the crap that we don't want to do and let ourselves have the freedom and the space to do the things we actually care about.
Awesome. Love it completely. And then, so what is currently preventing you from scaling faster and how are you looking to address those challenges?
We're a little early in our organization, and that's part of it. Like, we're still just really learning and trying to get that right fit, understanding of how do we position for our customers, how do we get our story out there. So, the biggest thing that's stopping us from scaling is there's a little bit of that, like, finding our way in this beginning as we think about what we're driving forward and what we're trying to do. How do we actually communicate that message and get that out there? So I would say that's our biggest hurdle right now because even though we started in July of 2024, the company started, we really didn't launch our product until it was just under a month ago. So we're a fairly fresh company in the grand scheme of startups and businesses who are trying to grow their business.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, 4 months is very early on, but I mean, it sounds like you guys know what you're doing and you're moving towards that. So hypothetic,
Hopefully we do.
I mean, I can guarantee you, if I could put a stamp on something, it would be this one. So hypothetically, if you could click your fingers and you had any resource in the world that could solve these problems right now and help you impact the business growth, what would that be? Anything?
Um, that's a great
Mm,
question. Any resources that we could click our fingers and grow the business. I think it's really just figuring out how do we successfully identify who is a right fit for us and connect with them in a way that feels open, authentic, and honest at scale, right? I can only send so many one-on-one LinkedIn messages and invitations to, come to our events or come to be on our podcast and all of that stuff. So I think if you're going to be someone who needs to figure out how to do this at scale is the key word. How do I take what I need to do and automate and scale it so it works smarter rather than me having to sit at my desk for hours copying and pasting the same message?
100%. And I suppose that all like links into not just scaling, but finding the right targets at scale as well. As you
100%.
say, you need
You can say all the right things, but if it's not for the right people, then it might as well be the wrong things.
completely agree with you. And then I suppose 4 months in and as an early on founder, what piece of advice you've been given um, about that you've received about scaling a business?
Oh, no, you're good. Be open. The one of the things that I love to think about and what I've heard from a lot of people as they've been trying to grow this is be open to the idea that you don't know everything. But once you've made a decision, be convicted in that decision. Because it's easy to say, oh, be open to other people's ideas, but at the end of the day, you have to make a choice. And deciding to let that choice float means that you might as well you've made a choice. You've chosen not to choose.
Yep.
And so, be open to feedback, be open to the idea that you're not right. But once you've decided through research or through experience that you are correct, be convicted in that decision.
Yeah, and definitely so leading on to what you just said, a non-choice is still a choice.
And
So
non-choice is still a choice. Yeah.
there you go. And then what piece of advice would you give to any founders who are looking to start off their journey?
Oh, find people who will tell you the truth. Find people who will open doors for you even when you aren't ready to open them yourselves. I tell this story sometimes. So I mentioned earlier, imposter syndrome, introverted, all that good stuff. Kind of hard when you're trying to build a business and scale. But I had a friend who worked with me and he came down to my office one day. We worked in like one of those co-working spaces and he said, "Hey, I have a friend at Salesforce who needs what you do. Here's his cell phone number. You should give him a call." And he left that phone number on my desk. And I waited, a couple of days and then a couple more days, and I really never picked up the phone and made the call. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, I'm this tiny company in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. What does Salesforce, this huge company, want with us? Like, they can't possibly want to work with us. And so I waited a couple more weeks, and he came back to my office and said, "Hey, you haven't called my friend. You need to call my friend." And I looked at him and I said, "Josh, what are people? They're not going to want to hire us. We're nobodies." So he grabbed my phone, dialed the number, hit send, and put it in my hand. And that's how I ended up landing the biggest client I had ever had. And we still work with Salesforce today. We've spent 10 years helping them understand their website, their experiences, and their customers. And it was all because of a phone call I almost refused to make.
I love that. And what a good friend to make you go back and be like, no, you know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing. Pick up that phone. What
Yeah,
a good
someone
guy,
who was
man.
going to tell me the truth and push me through a door when I wasn't quite ready to go through it myself.
I love that. I mean, from what I'm hearing and everything that you've just spoken about, you definitely have the conviction to move forward. And imposter syndrome would not even cross my mind. So,
Well, good. I'm very
yeah.
good at faking it.
But it's been, I say, and that's a wrap on another episode of Founding Futures. I want to thank Alyssa for sharing her incredible journey and insight with us today. To our listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future via whatever platform you listen to your favorite podcast. You can also find more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their sales and marketing efforts through world-class systems and playbooks. Until then, keep climbing, and we will see you on the next one.